Genesis chapter 38 in the King James Version. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her, and went in unto her, and she conceived, and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again, and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived, and bare a son, and called his name Shelah, and he was a Chezib, when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. And Judah said unto Onan, Go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at thy father's house till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, Lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. And Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, Wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give thee? And she said, Thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no harlot in this place. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burnt. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet, and the bracelets, and staff? And Judah acknowledged them, and said, She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son, and he knew her again no more. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass as he drew back his hand that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Phares, or Paras. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. All right, so there was a lot here, sermon upon sermon, once again. So Judah is now went away from the family for a little while, from the area, partly because what we're going to learn here in the near future. About his reaction and how his father took Joseph being killed, but he wasn't killed, he was sold. But Jacob, Israel, doesn't know that. And so what we see here is quite a bit. First, we have Judah, who's getting ready to learn some lessons here in life. So his own wife passes, and he goes to be comforted. He goes to a place in particular that he sees a woman that is by the side. So this woman is actually one of his sons, the deceased son's wife. But time had passed, and instead of giving this woman to his last son, he doesn't. Maybe, we don't quite know for certain, but we will eventually understand for certain. So here goes. Time had passed, and this is what happened. So listen to this. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? And so then she asked for on 18, and she said, Thy signet and thy bracelets and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it to her. And part of the reason why is because she knew who he was, but he didn't, quite know who she was. Whether it be the veil, maybe he was drunk, but he went into her thinking that she was just a harlot. Now, we know that, is that something that was done during those days? Yeah. Is that something that was done bringing past to present? Does it happen? Does things happen today? Things happen today. So what we see here, though, is even though he was supposed to do something, which was give her to his son, he did not. He was going against even what they were told to do. Remember, the eldest, or one of the sons, had the wife, and then he ended up passing away but didn't have a child. So then Judah gave his next son to her, and again, he did not have a child by her. He refused to have a child by her, which was wickedness, which was not, being in love, not helping the seed of the family continue to grow. So he ended up not bearing children at all. So the next child, who was too young, and she was supposed to be eventually his wife, but that didn't happen. And so here she is, seeing that here comes Judah to town, and she knew that his oldest son, or his youngest son now, was of age, and she should have become his wife, and this has not happened. So she takes it upon herself to secure her well-being, because at this time different things could happen, and one thing just did happen. What happened? So it was found out because she was pregnant. So And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burnt. So this was the punishment. This was the punishment, how they considered under what rules and regulations that they were living under during the period of the law. And so Tamar had those things. She had the signet ring, the bracelets, and the staff, and was able to show the person who impregnated me was Judah. And Judah then, once he found out, he understood. He said, you know what? I'm in the wrong. He acknowledged that. This is where we want to take note. I know I just kind of summarized all of this that's going on. 38:26. And Judah acknowledged them and said, She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son, and he knew her again no more. There's starting to be a change in Judah. Why was this story important? Why did we break off to just Judah at this moment? Because remember, Judah was one of the brothers that conspired against his Joseph, the youngest brother at the time, to have him murdered, to kill him, to slay him. And if not for Reuben to step in and say, no, let's not slay him, but let's do something else instead. Let's sell him. There's a good chance that Joseph would have died, but that was not the case. So we're starting to see a change in Judah as well. Judah going through life and having circumstances happen, whether they be caused or partially caused by him or even caused by him, or what kind of footing did he have to even his own children being an example? Was he an example? If he already was showing wickedness, what kind of example was he setting for his children? What kind of example was he setting for his loved ones? What kind of example was he setting for even his brothers? So now we're seeing, though, a change in Judah. Judah recognized what he did, and he even called himself out. He said, she's actually righteous. I am not in this case, in this situation. So he's admitting that he did do something. So there's admission, and then there's also speaking and saying, yeah, and understanding. Bringing past to present. We too can make mistakes. Absolutely. I don't know how many times. And as many times as I can catch, I know to go to the Lord and ask for forgiveness. Because sometimes there are things that I don't even realize until much, much later, or sometimes not even at all. But when I do understand that things that I've done wrong, I mean, there was even something today that could have played out differently. And when I thought about it at the time, it was, what was I going to do in the heat of the moment, and like right in the moment? And instead, I just continued on instead of having a different thought or a different action. And so even things like that, we can see, things that you may think are little, they're not. So little things we think of that are good can turn out to be giant, huge things to someone else's life. Just the opposite too. Something that you may think, oh, all I did was take the last item, or all I did was walk in the door first, or all I did was understand. Even those little things that you think that were maybe even conceited, or maybe just involved the self, maybe selfishness, even those little tiny, I took the last fry. We were all eating out of the same carton and I took the last fry. Can make a huge difference, especially when we're not leading a life in love, when we're not walking with the Spirit, when we allow for our own thoughts and feelings to get the better of us. Think about those things as we continue on. Before we go on, though, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when we read over this? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think?